Hi guys, this is Jake at Canadian Cutting Edge. It's Fixed Blade Friday again, and we've got this from HX Outdoors to take a look at today. This is a dagger, sharp on two edges. You've got, you could put paracord on the handle and make it a paracord handled knife if you want to. But I've got other ideas for this thing. If you're curious, and here's the Cordura sheath, by the way, Cordura type, Cordura-esque. Might not be authentic Cordura. I doubt it is. It's a Chinese variant of it. But if you're interested at all in seeing what I think I want to do with this thing, stick around for the full review. Coming at you right now. So here it is together. We got a bit of a belt loop right there. So you can wear this on your pants if you want to. I'll show you a picture of a guy wearing it. Velcro, hook and loop, whatever you want to call it, to hold it together. And it's slightly lined with some heavier material in there. There is a material in there acting as a liner. Sort of Cordura-esque. A rivet here to hold it together. Decent sewing job, but of course, very, very cheap material indeed. The blade steel here is 4CR13 MOV. That's sort of a cross between a hatchet steel and a knife steel. It's sort of in between there. So it's got some toughness to it, but it's not super hard. Although they do claim a Rockwell hardness of around 58 for it, which I find a little bit high, but you know, that's okay. Hollow grind on both sides. Of course, it's a dagger. We've got jimping on either side of the handle right here, sort of as it goes a little bit wider. Narrow knife. What do we got here? We've got a cutting edge this way, 2.8 inches, 7.2 centimeters. The width at the end where the cutting edge terminates is 3.5 centimeters, 1.37 inches. From the cutting edge here to the end of the handle, 5.7 inches, 14.45 centimeters. And then the width of the handle here is just under an inch, 0.93 of an inch. That's 2.35 centimeters. And I don't have it written down. I'll put on the screen right now the thickness of the steel right here. Well, the whole thing. And, you know, the black coating's okay. What do I think of this knife? I don't think it's a very good knife per se. You might want to use this as a throwing knife, but even then it's rather expensive for a throwing knife because you get just one. How much do you pay for this thing? US dollars, 10.23, Canadian dollars, 13.17, euros, 8.6 euros, pounds, 7.6 pounds. And there's a little bit of shipping on here, about $2.50 US for shipping. Euros, that's about 2 euros for shipping, a little over $3 Canadian for shipping. Yeah, so it costs a bit. It's for throwing knives, you want to get like 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, you know, whatever number, because you don't want to be walking back and forth to your target. So if you get 6 of these, you're looking at about $75 US by the time you get them to your house and everything. Maybe $70, but still, it's not that good of a price for a throwing knife. It's a good weight for a throwing knife. Oh, where's the weight? I didn't write it down. The weight's on the screen right here. So it's a good weight because you don't want throwing knives to be super light. And you're going to throw it from the handle unless you go ahead and you make the sides here dull. If I was using this as a throwing knife, I would leave the first half of an inch sharp, the tip and the first half inch there sharp, and I would make the rest of this dull. It's just, you don't need this sharp for a throwing knife. What I might do if I bought this is it does make a good price point to make your own homemade spear. I made a very, very rough spear. So I took a stick handle from a shovel, and the grain orientation is this way. So I cut down the sides a little bit, made a little bit of a point, drilled a few holes that are equidistance for this. This is a super, super rough thing. Don't look at my woodworking skills for this. This took me literally 3 minutes to do in a rush. Just The only thing that slowed me down was my safety precautions. Other than that, I was going through this thing in a hurry. And so what I was thinking about doing is you put it in like this. And since you got 4 holes there, you know, at least 2 of them, see the holes go right through because you can see my finger back here. You put bolts through here with washers on either side and tighten it up. I would do at least 2, probably 3 of them would be a better thing to do, to put them on and bolt them on nice and tight. And then I'd shape the wood down a little bit so that the wood, you know, is only the same thickness as the metal here, or depth this way. You don't want it too big because you want it to be, you know, reasonable. This piece of wood might actually be a little too big to start with, but you can always make it smaller. And don't have bolts that are sticking way out the sides. That's no good. You want to have them nice and flush. And there's a whole bunch of different ways to attach things. And if anybody's actually serious about this, email me and I'll give you some suggestions on how to attach it in a really good way. I've got some really good ideas because I do have a woodworking history. That was my first career after high school. So that's what I would do. I would turn this into a spear. Since there's so much talk about a lot of knives to turn them into spears, you know, there you go. Buck makes some knives that are really good for spears. Well, not really knives. They make spear tips, I should say. They put some out for 2017. And so now they've been out for a year. Some really good spear ends that they've got. Cold Steel's got some good stuff. They all cost a little bit more than this stuff does. So if you want something for a first try, you know, this might be the thing to do for that. Other than that, this knife is not really all that useful. And yes, daggers are legal in Canada as long as they are not push daggers. So, you know, you could easily turn that into a spear. And that's the only thing I would recommend for this thing, this Q-04. Other than that, it's not terrible. It's just, I don't believe that it's a good knife to use. There's not enough protection against your hand, although this jimping does help. If you did use it and stabbed into something, it's a stabbing knife, you know, and if you stopped abruptly because you hit a hard bone that didn't give room to pass, you know, glance off or something, you don't want your hand going up over those cutting edges, especially if you sharpen them up really nice. So there you go. That's what this thing's about. It's, you know, it's a reasonable buy if you want to make your first play spear with it. Maybe you've got a son, you know, and you want to, you know, do some fun stuff with him, spend an afternoon making spears and then going out into the bush and throwing them and stuff. All kinds of really good life experiences, all kinds of fun stuff like that. Or if you're still a little kid at heart yourself, and aren't we all? You know, it might be fun to make your own spear that way. Go to the hardware store, buy a broomstick. Just don't get one that's too thin, and make sure you do cut with the grain. So, this end is cracked already, but if you look very carefully, if it'll focus, there you go. You can see the grain lines are perpendicular to this crack. And so what you want to do is cut in line with that. So your cut you want to do is cut into it like this. Don't cut this way, the way this crack is. That's going to make it fall apart. Cut into it like this. So cut the sides off and cut down the middle like this so that you cut this space out just like that. And make sure it's big enough that you fit that in. You don't want to have to force it in because you're going to get this to crack open here even more. So you want that opening to be the same size of this as the steel blade stock. Not much bigger at all, because if you make it bigger, then you got a problem too. And, you know, you can bolt it together. And once you have it perfect, then the next time, you know, take it apart. And if you want to leave it like that way forever, scuff this up big time, get some epoxy all over it, and bolt it together one last time so it's a permanent spear. So there you go. That's what I would do with this thing. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Have yourself a great big fixed blade Friday. And remember, always cut towards your chum and not your thumb.